Today on Find the Right Road, I'm going to help my friend Jerry drive his Tesla Model Y Performance Edition 1,200 miles from Detroit, Michigan to Tampa, Florida. Oh, and by the way, we're doing it all in one day. So you want to see what a long-range trip in this Model Y is like? Stick around to find out. All right, so you have to plug in the address of where we're headed. So navigate, and you've probably got it already plugged in your system somewhere. All right, we're actually in Livonia, Michigan, but it's a suburb of Detroit. And I think I estimated from your home to your place in Tampa was about 1,200 miles. So let's see what it comes up with. There we go. So does it give you an estimate of when you'll arrive? And
I think it will once we begin the trip. You can see it's telling us we're going to stop at those superchargers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's telling us we're going to stop 8 times. 8 times.
Well, that's because of the temperature, because it's so cold right now. It's 39 degrees out. It's 5 a.m. All right, let's roll. Begin trip. And it zooms in and says, okay, yeah, you need to get on 96. And away we go. All right, so we're in Ohio. We're 14 miles from our first charging station, which is in Lima, which you can see up here. But the interesting part is, look at the statement it put above there, preconditioning battery for fast charging. So I guess it knows we're going to a fast charging station. It's got to prep the battery. Now we were thinking, because it's 37 degrees outside, that maybe the heat pump's got to kick on in order to warm the batteries up or something of that nature. Would probably be the case. So I'm going to pull up the energy, see where we're at. You can see we've traveled 124 miles. We're at 23%, and when we pull in, we'll be at 16%. We're at a Hampton Inn, is the first charging station we're coming to.
And here's that.
Nope, that's a Ford.
That's a Ford. Okay. Is there anybody here? Nobody here.
And all the charging stations are open. Cool. So now you just back into a spot, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now that you're here.
Yeah, usually you can take this off and push this little button, and it makes that open.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the light changes here.
Yeah,
will change from blue to green or something to indicate it starts charging?
Yeah, when it actually finishes, it's a little communication.
Yeah, where it's talking to itself.
I think I was locking the doors.
Yeah, I think it was too. Then again, you got your phone with you to unlock it too. Oh, there, now it's green. Okay, so now it's charging. So I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about charging a Tesla. When you pull into a supercharging station like this, and they're located all over the world, most of them are like this one. They're V1 or V2 versions. They have a maximum charging rate of 150 kilowatts. There is a new V3 version out that will charge up to 250 kilowatts. That was introduced in 2019, but that's still being rolled out at this point in time, and we wouldn't be seeing any on our trip from Michigan to Florida. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see at the bottom it says 3A. The reason for that is these chargers are in pairs. So if two people plug in and one is in 3A and one is in 3B, you are actually splitting that 150 kilowatts of charging capacity between the two of you. And so it's kind of a cat and mouse game when you pull in, if there's other people charging, to try and pick the right charger so that you get the full 150 kilowatts as opposed to half that amount. Now, you may wonder, well, what does it cost to charge at one of these superchargers? Well, that's also an interesting question, because in this particular case, in Lima, Ohio, my friend Jerry has now been here twice, and this supercharging station charged him nothing. We're not sure why that is, but for some reason, Tesla doesn't charge a fee at this station. Now, at other stations along the way, we will find that there is a charge, and Tesla has his credit card on file and just charges his credit card for what that charge would be. And so when we get to the end of the video, I'm going to give some details regarding what the cost was in order to drive the entire distance. Now, I also want to take this opportunity to talk about some of the data that I'm going to gather. And I'm not going to dive into this much detail with each stop, but I wanted to at least with this first stop. And then I'll give all the summary of information at the end of the video if you want to see it. So this first leg, we drove 139.1 miles at an average speed of 70 miles an hour. Now, the software we're using, there's an app that you can get that actually will tell you how much CO2 you have saved from polluting the environment from an ICE or internal combustion engine vehicle. In this case, the software is telling us we saved 56.2 pounds of CO2 from going into the environment. Now, when we arrived at this charging station, our battery level was at 16%, which represented about 47 miles of range remaining. We charged for 30 minutes to bring it up to 80%. And the reason we don't go to 100 is we don't need to in order to get to our next charging location and still have plenty of safety left over. And so we only charge to 80%. The closer you get to 100%, the longer it takes for the batteries to charge. So at 80%, you get about 230 miles of range. The average charging rate was 95 kilowatts. The maximum charging rate was 137. Now, the average you notice is 95. The reason for that is as you get closer to your goal, in this case 80%, the charging rate will slow down. And the reason for that is it's to protect the batteries from being damaged. And so you don't get the maximum charge rate right up until your threshold. So that kind of gives you a summary of some of the data that we gather along the way. And now we're off to our next stop, which is Cincinnati, Ohio. Our second stop in Cincinnati, Ohio, we arrived at 9:19 a.m. It had been 122.2 miles, and we had averaged 70 miles an hour. So we just finished our second charge, right? This is our second stop?
Yeah.
Cincinnati?
Yep.
Our next stop is London, Kentucky, wherever that is.
We're going to London.
We're going to London. That's what we can tell everybody.
Yeah.
Now you're going to reinstall the magic beanbag.
Yeah, install magic beans.
Just kind of squeeze it in there.
Yeah, it was surprisingly a good fit.
And then use the Velcro to hold it in place.
Yeah. Oh,
It knew the light turned green and it beeped at you.
I think so.
So, of course, the purpose of the beanbag is to defeat the Tesla system that wants you to touch the steering wheel at certain intervals. And so instead, you Velcro this little guy in. And then you can go long distances without having to touch the steering wheel. So we're going south, so we're going this way. Oh, feel the speed. Wow. Yeah, I heard this Performance Edition can do 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds. It's like Ferrari fast.
Yep.
It's crazy. Because the trip was primarily highway miles, we spent the vast majority of time using the autopilot feature from Tesla. And there were times where I probably drove 100 miles without ever touching the steering wheel. It's a fascinating technology. It also has a feature which Jerry actually would not allow me to enable, where it will pass slower traffic. So I want you to imagine you're in the center lane and you come upon slower traffic in front of you. It will check the left lane, put the turn signal on. If it's open, it'll move over to the left lane, go around that traffic, put the turn signal on, and move back to the center lane and continue on its way, all without user intervention. I even experimented at one point of allowing the Tesla to get off at an exit without my intervention. That turned into an adventure. Okay.
It's braking?
It's braking on its own. Yep, that's not me.
Oh, 30 mile an hour. Oh, it's going to be a mire.
Yep, probably. Now it wants me to get over.
Jesus Christ. Look at all the people who hit that wall. Those are all the Teslas with the beta software. Oh, Jesus Christ!
I'm not touching it. It did it on its own.
Oh my God.
All right, I'm taking over now.
All right.
The Cincinnati to London, Kentucky stretch was the shortest of our trip, only 48.4 miles. We pulled in at 12:09 p.m. We were down to 17% and about 50 miles worth of range. And then we had to do a longer stop to charge up to 93% because our next stretch to get to Chattanooga, Tennessee was going to be nearly 200 miles. And so at 12:53 p.m. we pulled out and we were on our way. So we've made stop number 5, and we are in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But instead of sending us to a hotel or a Myers or a Walmart or someplace, where are we? We're in the Chattanooga airport in a paid parking area. I'll pan around. You can see all the Tesla Chargers behind me. There's one other Tesla here. But then, if I pan around, you can see it's really a parking structure, and there's actually an airport back there. We just saw a plane come in. And so, in this particular case, not only are we going to be paying for electricity, but we're going to be paying for parking as well. It turned out, even though the machine had given us a little ticket, on our way out of the parking lot, when we put the ticket in, apparently we hadn't been there long enough, so it didn't actually charge us a fee for parking. So that was a plus. So at this point, it's 4:07 p.m. We jumped back on I-75 and headed south. Our next stop was going to be Atlanta, Georgia.
Look at this cop here.
Welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, he was just sitting there, doing nothing.
Did you see how they're not backing in?
Yeah, they all pulled in because of where the... take the one on the end there.
Right.
Okay, so let's take a look here. Let's pull up. I need energy. So we arrived with 27% left. We did 112 miles. So we'll close that out. And then we'll go to, there we are at 27. We'll open the charging port. And as you can see, we're in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's 5:52 p.m. It's 61 degrees. So let's watch as he plugs in. It should indicate the charger. Opens it up. Oh. And he plugs it in, starting to charge. And then let's see what kind of rate we get this time around. Okay, boy, keep going. There we go. Now it's kicking in. Ideally, most of the ones we've been to have been in the 130 to 140 range, but this one looks to be...
Well, it slows down to 130. It starts in the 250 range, and then as it fills up, it starts to dial backwards.
Oh, you're talking about miles per hour. I'm talking about kilowatts.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so it has half the kilowatts that you're used to seeing.
Yeah, which is why it's telling us it's going to be 50 minutes before it gets to the amount of charge we need, not 100%, the amount we need in order to make the next charging station. All right. One of the things I neglected to mention at our first stop was that Jerry demonstrated how the Tesla has a number of built-in games. And so even though the vehicle is charging, you can have the climate system still running and queue up one of these games. In this particular case, it's Beach Buggy Racing 2, and you use the steering wheel and the brake pedal to play the game while you're waiting for your vehicle to finish charging. And so you don't use the accelerator pedal or brake pedal?
No,
you just steer?
I think you use the brake pedal.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Okay, it's a good thing this Tesla's got self-driving mode. I'm starting to worry about you, Jerry.
Okay, I gotta get whatever that is.
Oh, and then avoid the
tumbleweeds.
Atlanta would turn out to be our longest stop, primarily because that charging station was charging at only half the rate of what the other charger stations were. So we spent 49 minutes at Atlantic Station Mall in Atlanta, walking around to get it charged up to 92% before we headed off to Tifton, Georgia. As we departed Atlanta, It really was the only traffic we ran into in the entire trip. We did pass Georgia Tech University, and once you got out of the downtown area, then things freed up and we got back to our normal pace of running, in this case, as you can see, 80 miles an hour down I-75 on our way to our next destination. We had 2 charging stops left to go. At this point, due to the amount of charge we had picked up in Atlanta, the Tesla actually recalculated and determined we didn't need to make 3 stops, only 2 remaining. So it skipped over Tifton, Georgia, and took us to Valdosta, which was another 49 miles down the road. And that would allow us to then do 1 stop in Florida and get us to our final destination. Oh, that looks like it could be it.
Looks like 29 electoral votes.
29 electoral votes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now passed into the state of Florida. And what do we got here? It's 10:43 p.m. And we still got a boatload of ways to go. Here we are, the final charging spot. Where are we in Florida? What is this? What is this town? Do you remember? Is this Lake City?
Yes.
Lake City, Florida. So from here, our final destination is ahead. I think it's about 150 miles, but I'm not quite sure. So we got to wait for another half hour, 35 minutes worth of charging, and then we are off. Hopefully rolling in about 2 a.m. So what does Tom and Jerry do while we're waiting for the car to charge? We're getting cozy by the fire.
You're so beautiful.
Jerry took over driving now as we go into the final home stretch from Valdosta to Land O'Lakes, Florida, where his home is. And having been on the road now for 18, 19, 20 hours, it does get pretty tiring. Not as tiring as driving a normal automobile, since you have the autopilot to assist you. I really think it does help. But I did nod off for about an hour as we made our way through Florida on our way to our final destination. Here he comes. 2:04 a.m. and we have arrived at our final destination. 1,200 miles later, 21 hours and 4 minutes later, we succeeded in our goal. Detroit to Tampa in 1 day. So here's what the final numbers looked like. We had a total travel time of 21 hours, 4 minutes. Of that, we spent 4 hours, 10 minutes charging and 16 hours, 54 minutes of actual driving. Now, we're not sure what the exact distance was. Again, I forgot to set the trip odometer as we left, but based on Google Maps saying the trip is 1,192 miles, and I'm betting we had maybe another 8 miles getting on and off freeways, so I'm going to work under the assumption the distance traveled was exactly 1,200 miles. So you may be asking, what did it cost to make this trip? We were charged only 6 of the 7 stops we made for a grand total of $57.60. Now, if you did that same trip in a regular car that got, say, 25 miles per gallon, it would take 48 gallons of gas. Now, right now here in Michigan, the cost of gasoline is about $2.20 a gallon. So that works out to $105.60, or almost twice what we spent in electricity. Our average speed when traveling came to 70.6 miles per hour. The average battery life when we pulled into a charging station was 19.9%, or 57.5 miles of range left. Our average battery life at departure was 81%, or 236 miles of range. Our average stop lasted 33 minutes, and the grand total of CO2 saved from going into the environment, according to the app, was 467.3 pounds of CO2. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the like button below. If you'd like to be notified when we upload our next video, please hit the notification bell as well. Thanks again for watching. My name is Tom Stroup, and this is Find the Right Road. We'll see you next time.